Hey everybody, Alex here for Nerdy Inc., coming at you with another episode of Our Favorite Frontier, the only Star Trek podcast on the internet, hosted by me and Nick. Hey Nick.
Hey Alex, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Not well.
Yeah, I can imagine why.
Not well. I feel like I'm being infected by a parasite.
Yeah, you feel that way because we just watched the episode, Conspiracy.
First Officer's Log. Stardate 41775.5. We are en route to the ocean world of Pacifica. While our mission is scientific in nature, we look forward to the warm blue waters and fine beaches that make Pacifica a jewel of the galaxy.
Nick, what did you think of Conspiracy?
What a hot pile of garbage.
Yes. Yes. What happens in this episode, Nick? Just let's go through a quick rundown here.
So, it kind of alludes back to an earlier episode. I'm sure you know the name of it.
Coming of age.
Coming of age. It's Admiral Quinn. He says that there's something strange going on with Starfleet. So, it's like, you kind of hang on that, and then you finally discover what's going on. So, Picard gets called by a friend whose ship got destroyed. And he is told that there is a conspiracy going on with the upper levels of Starfleet. So Picard wants to kind of do some investigating. But while doing that, he's kind of being conned because he's getting tricked into actually showing up to investigate this. So he gets in contact with Earth and the Starfleet there. And they invite him down there to dinner to talk about what his concerns might be. Meanwhile, Quinn goes on the Enterprise, and you find out is to infect everyone with parasites so that everyone in the Starfleet can be infected with parasites so they can control the Enterprise. And, yeah, that's the episode.
I was very, very excited to talk about this episode because I think this is probably the most memorable episode. That doesn't mean it's good, but boy, oh boy, you just can't forget it.
No, I don't think I could.
So, like you said, this harkens back to the episode Coming of Age, the episode that featured Wesley taking his entrance exam into Starfleet Academy and failing it because he's a loser. And, something's going on. And now we see, this is these slug monsters. I was reading up about this because Gene Roddenberry liked having his utopia. He's like, everything's got to be perfect. So in order to make a conspiracy, he had to introduce aliens, as opposed to there being a political conspiracy. He goes, okay, well, we got to have parasites, and they wanted this to be sort of a long-running thing because at the end of the episode, there's this whole, they set off a beacon. It's a homing beacon to Earth. I got news for you. In the next 6 seasons of this show, you are never going to hear from these species ever again.
Oh. They make it seem like it's going to be a big thing.
Yeah. You also never hear about them in 7 seasons worth of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. You also never hear of them 7 seasons of Voyager. They never show up ever again.
Now, I would have enjoyed this episode more if they built more on it besides of the one mention at the end of Coming of Age. Like, if they built up on Starfleet being all weird and shit, then you'd be like, okay, something's going on, we gotta figure this out, and then there's a big reveal that they're parasites. No, they kind of throw you into this one. And they don't really explain what they have really done. There's nothing significant that we've seen that they've impacted. Mm-hmm. So this big unveiling of the conspiracy isn't that big of an unveil because, honestly, we didn't really know there was a conspiracy going on to begin with.
Yeah, it was just that one reference of something might be going on, but I might be crazy. And then all of a sudden it all gets thrown into us like mad.
Yeah, there's no examples of really what Starfleet is doing that's so outlandish that there's a thought process of it, which is the biggest flaw of the episode.
Yeah. The thing about this episode, I was reading, like I just said, I was reading up on it, and it was very polarizing. Some people at the time loved it because it was like a horror movie almost with monsters and aliens and blowings of heads ups. Other people thought it was dumb. This episode really doesn't hold up well, as you can sort of continue back into, as you continue on in Star Trek, because some of the things they do to try to just freak you out are just sort of normal later on, such as eating worms or larvae, as the case may be. It's presented as, look at this weird thing going on. They're eating worms. Why? And then you get to later Star Trek, and it's like, oh yeah, Klingons like gok, which is just live worms, and everyone eats it because they respect other cultures, and people eat worms all the time now. And so it's like this shock horror that's made by someone who doesn't really
Understand shock horror
or understand the world he's building.
Yeah.
Gene Roddenberry. Oh no, I had something stuck in my throat just there.
Oh no.
Now, there's not a whole lot to talk about this episode thematically. I think, your recap summed it up, and, we just basically say, yeah, just sort of goofy, whatever. We can break down a little bit of the minutia more in a bit. But I have a theory about this episode. That this is one of the reasons I was excited to talk about this, and one of the reasons I had been harping on something so much during the past 20 episodes of this podcast, and I'm very excited to bring it up now. I have a theory that this episode, when they were conceiving of the conspiracy, the reason why they didn't want to build up the conspiracy too much is because I think they wanted an out for Picard. Picard could not have been the one halfway through, at like the halfway point in the season when we first discovered the conspiracy. He couldn't have been the one to figure out there's a conspiracy going on, because I think the plan was, in case Picard as a character isn't working, we can say he's organizing the conspiracy and then we can get rid of him. Because after all, it's sort of a weird thing to make an old man be the lead of your sci-fi adventure show. And the reason I say that is because TV likes to have, plan Bs. And the plan B in this case was, if Picard loses control of the Enterprise, then who takes over? Riker takes over. And Riker, we've seen him be acting captain a lot, and they really spent a lot of time building up Riker as a captain. But as the show started to develop and as they started working on Picard around the midpoint of the season, they say, oh, Picard actually is working as a character. Let's keep him on. Let's keep, we don't have to go this route. We can just have Picard discover the conspiracy. And that's why it was so ambiguous. Like they had no mention of the conspiracy until the end, because I don't think they knew what the conspiracy was going to be early on in the season. That's my conspiracy theory. And to be fair, I didn't form this my conspiracy theory about conspiracy. I didn't form that on my first watch through. I was like, Riker is a lot like Kirk. So was Riker a failsafe in case Picard didn't work and they would just go back to the classic way of doing things? Oh, well, if they were planning on getting rid of Picard, or they wanted, how would they do it? Oh, this conspiracy, and that's why the conspiracy was never introduced earlier. Like, there was no build-up in previous episodes because they couldn't show their hand as to whether Picard was involved or not, because they didn't know. That's my conspiracy theory.
If anyone has comments on that, feel free to comment on the video, so we want to know what you think of Alex's theory.
Specifically, if you happen to know Rick Berman or any of the producers, because I'd love to know what they think about this.
Why don't we call him right now?
Does he have a Twitter? I doubt Rick Berman's on Twitter. He's a boring old man.
We should have done research. We should do a pre-show where we talk about things like this and then do the show. So we could have just got him on the air right now.
Rick, oh my God, he does have a Twitter. Executive producer for Star Trek series. Scuba diver, husband, father. All right.
And not Star Trek writer.
Well, he was a producer. I mean, he wrote some episodes. All right, I'm going to tweet him.
This is big.
I may have cracked the code, everybody.
And if we get answers before this airs, we will insert those answers and put an emergency clip on the end of this episode.
Yeah. indeed. So I just tweeted at him. We'll see what happens. In other news, we got to see a man's head explode.
Oh my god, I did not see that coming, because they were using the kill feature and no one else was exploding, and all of a sudden that guy turns around like he's supposed to be a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then the thing crawls up, which, I mean, I know it's the late 80s. That thing looked like shit.
It was bad. It was bad stop motion.
That is some claymation bullshit.
Yeah. And claymation can be good, but it was so choppy.
Yeah, what's up with it?
What's the deal with it?
What's up with claymation?
Eric Andre reference, everyone.
Absolutely.
Actually, and that does tie into Star Trek.
Yeah, because
that interview.
It's the Lance Reddick thing.
Yeah, everyone look up Eric Andre's interview of Lance Reddick on the Eric Andre show. Anyway, yeah, apparently the thing about this, that was they wanted to have it be an entire mother alien, and they couldn't afford that because they're poor, and this is TV in the 80s. So it's like, all right, well, let's have Remick just be the alien, and we'll just sort of show it at the last minute. And so they write up this whole big thing about it, Queen Alien is living inside of Remick, and they're going to blow up his head. And they were like, oh, shit, this is really violent. Are we allowed to do this? And so one of the special effects coordinators did what any good, responsible father would do and say, let's see if this is too violent. I'll show it to my small child. And he showed it to a small child, and apparently the kid loved the head explosion so much, he said he wanted a Remick toy where you pushed a button and his head would blow up. So it passed the 8-year-old. It got an 8-year-old seal of approval, and they put it into the show. At which point, this episode was banned in the UK for showing a head blowing up. So I'm glad to know that an 8-year-old is making all of our decisions for what airs on Star Trek.
Well, I think they did that same thing for True Detective Season 2 as well.
Oh, I haven't watched that, so okay.
Well, it's awful. It's like an 8-year-old wrote the last episode.
I am thinking about watching True Detective because a director who I very much enjoy, Jeremy Saulnier, is directing Season 3.
Watch Season 1. Do not even attempt to watch Season 2.
They're wholly unrelated, right?
Completely.
Okay. I might do that.
Season 2 is so painful. It loses itself in its own plot and then forgets what the show's about.
And then doesn't Vince Vaughn get blue balls in his heart? Isn't that a line he says?
It might be, but if it is, I blocked it out because that was so bad.
Good to know.
Oh my god. He hasn't been anything since then, has he?
I don't think so. I haven't seen him in anything.
Wow, career killer.
Oh wait, he was in that Mel Gibson war movie from last year, Hacksaw Ridge.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, a guy's head blows up. Sorry if we're a little discombobulated, everyone. You may not have been able to tell because of my amazing audio editing, but a Windows update happened right in the middle of the fucking podcast recording, and we had to go and suture this thing together. So yeah, here's the thing that I want to really talk about this episode, is how fucking violent it is, because Gene Roddenberry seems to fall on his sword for this idealism of the future. He seems to, Gene Roddenberry has this very picturesque ideal of the future where he says, everyone gets along. We solve problems through diplomacy, not war. And he really goes to bat for these morals that make up the groundwork for Star Trek.
Respectable.
Yes, that's what
to an extent. To
an extent, that's what a creator should do. And he goes and throws it all away in his own universe to have Picard and Riker just exterminate this life force. No attempt to let's beam it aboard the Enterprise and lock it in the brig and talk to it and blah blah blah. Like, they know Remick is a bad guy. Just beam him up, lock him up, and just talk and be like, hey, Remick, what's the dealio here? Who are you? And have it be like the one part of Independence Day when they talk to the alien in the Area 51 medical lab.
And Data's in that.
Data is in that. So many references, everyone. Yeah.
We're killing it today.
We are. Knocking them out of the park. So that's the thing I found weird, is how it seemed Gene Roddenberry was like throwing away his own mythology for this one like violent horror episode.
And it wasn't even good.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Like, if you're going to kill the thing you love or really do something that's out of your comfort zone, it's going to be a make or break, and you better kill it, because if you don't, then you're just like, what are you doing? I think there would be a lot more excitement in Star Trek if there was some sort of violent aspect to it. It's just not. Like, it's a lot of diplomacy and, like, things. That's why I assume, like, nerdy, smart people like it. No offense.
None taken.
Like, Star Wars, there's, the original trilogy, we're talking about, like, there's, violence and stuff. And I feel like even in the original Star Trek, there seemed to be a lot more things. Like, Kirk would fight monsters and stuff, which would look a lot more real than the fight that Quinn had with everybody else.
Oh, I can't wait to discuss that. But continue your point.
I feel like it would be a lot more interesting, and maybe it would have had a lot more mainstream success if they had that element there.
What I would say is, don't confuse violence with adventure. Because I would never consider the original series violent in any way. There was action, there was, some sort of punches and phasers and shit like that. And there will be more of that to come. There will be some fun space battles. There will be some fun stuff, but I didn't find this was a fun adventure. This was just dark.
It was just barbaric.
Yeah. So that's the thing that put me off to it is in the future everyone gets along, but we may have to fire phasers and launch torpedoes and redirect power to the forward shields. That's all fine. That's part of the territory. But
you blew this guy's face up and his stomach
without even trying to talk to it. Like that's what's so jarring about this episode.
It's an anti-idealistic approach.
Yeah, but there are some fisticuff fights in future Star Trek, and that's fine. And they do look better than that embarrassing fight that happened in this episode.
Like, it's the late 80s. Like, did they not have money to hire stunt doubles? Did they just not choreograph it properly because they didn't have a good choreographer? Or choreographer. I believe it's called a choreographer, not a choreographer.
Choreographer, yes. The thing that bothered me about it was, even if you shot this fight scene and choreographed this fight scene terribly, which they did, you can fix it in editing a little bit by trimming out some of those huge gaps in between punches and kicks. Because Riker looks like such a wimp. The guy punches him, Riker falls down, and then you show like 5 to 10 seconds of him just sitting on the ground until he gets kicked again. Cut that out. Make it look like fast blows happening one after the other, so Riker doesn't have time to respond. But they edited it this long way that made Riker's failure and Worf's failure, the Klingon warrior's failure, so embarrassing.
I guess an old motherfucking dude.
Yeah. Like, it just, everything about it was just cheese.
Painful
cheese.
Just absolute pain.
It's like cheese with broken glass in it.
Everything was just not exciting. Especially when it could have been such an exciting episode. They're breaking the conspiracy. And all we have to show for it is some dude's head blows up.
Yeah. At least that was neat, I guess.
That was good.
So, yeah, the good news is they never bring up these slug monsters ever again. I was doing some reading, as I do, and evidently this is not going to mean anything for you, but it will mean something to DS9 fans. Evidently, these slug monsters were written in one of the Star Trek novels, which technically is not canon, but they were written to be deformed mutant cousins of the Trill. So, that's neat, I guess.
Cool.
Yeah.
That there about does it.
That does about do it.
Now, you're telling me you said they talked about the beacon.
Yeah.
At the end. So you're telling me the next episode has nothing to do with what we just watched?
Correct.
Even though they completely set it up like there's going to be a continuation?
Yep.
Nothing.
Here's why. Because they set it up, and then the episode aired, and everyone hated it, and they said, okay, well, let's just not address this again, and we'll just hope everyone forgets about it.
Yeah, but how long were between episodes? They had to have made those episodes.
Well, this is the second to last episode of season 1. So logically, they're going to say, oh, it's a homing beacon. Nothing happens next week. And then then maybe we would address it in season 2.
I thought it was going to be like a 2-part episode, like, oh, the homing beacon, and then they're going to go right to it.
Oh, no, nothing like that happens.
That's what a smart person would have done.
Nope. I'm very sorry.
As in, a smart person wouldn't do that, or these aren't smart people?
These aren't smart people.
Okay.
Yeah. Ultimately, these were going to be like an overarching villain for the series, and then they sucked, and they never came up again. And instead, we were introduced to a different villain in season 2 that is much better. And
so they tried the Ferengi. Didn't work.
Correct.
They tried these dudes. Didn't work.
Correct.
How hard is it to make a villain? Even shitty TV shows now make okay villains.
It's pretty good once Gene Roddenberry steps away, because we're introduced to a new villain in season 2, episode 16, and boy, oh boy, does that take a turn. And those villains show up in season 3, season 4, season 5, season 6, season 7, as well as one of the movies and basically all of Star Trek Voyager. Those villains are there a whole lot because everyone loves them. They do better this third time. Third time's a charm, as they say.
Yep.
I'm just
They do
sort
say
of,
that.
I'm sort of scrolling through the list of episodes right now, and I don't remember what happens in the next episode called The Neutral Zone. And season 2, I don't remember the first 2. I remember the third episode. The third episode's fun. 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't really remember. 8 is very good, and 9 is amazing. So you only have 10 episodes until 10 more weeks until we get to a truly phenomenal, fantastic episode.
I can't wait.
Granted, there's 2 good ones before that, and there could be more. I don't remember some of these in season 2.
Well, I'm excited to finally get into the thick of it.
You only have 2 more episodes till you see Jonathan Frakes with a beard.
I think I have one more episode.
Well, yeah, sorry, one more, meaning one more that we have to deal with him with no beard. Because there's one more episode this season. And then season 2, Beard Riker makes his triumphant appearance.
All right.
So I guess we'll call it a day right there then.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So join us next week when we discuss the episode that I just forgot the name, The Neutral Zone. Join us next week when we discuss The Neutral Zone.
So long.
Farewell.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye. Our Favorite Frontier is hosted by Alex Russo and Nick Caladona, edited by Alex Russo, and produced by Nerdy Inc. Be sure to follow us on YouTube to catch all of our videos, as well as like us on Facebook, Twitter, and whatever other social media we have.